Yeah, I believe so. It's a good point about, the first two games were against challenging teams, very good football teams, particularly defensively, and then obviously Oregon offensively. And then you have a bye week, and then we have an FCS opponent that you definitely by no means can overlook, because I've been on both sides of that, being an FCS coach coming to a BCS school. But what you say is the next couple games, we talked about identity and things like that. I think that will start to forge itself into how we play, the way we play, and and look at more statistically about where we are. Because if you look at the statistics now, points against and things like that. I mean, I think it's a little bit of an anomaly because of the who we've played. But I think as you start getting into into more games and kind of, as you start playing football games and things start metering out the way that you thought. So that'll be important for us to, improve third downs, to pick, to have a good running game, to get turnovers and not give the ball up, all those things. The key is to get the ball to the guys that, have, as you're talking about skill sets, that, there are some that are vertically threat guys that we have on our team. There's some guys that you may want to throw a bubble pass to, to allow him to operate, maneuver, coming off blocks and people having to come up and make tackles on them. There are guys that are cross the middle guys. So I think we have enough wide receivers where there's jobs for them to do, and I think one of the things is to do it and call the plays consistently to get those guys to be able to do the jobs we think they can do. I tell you what, Brent Urban has garnered the attention of every scout. We've had every NFL team come through to our practice facility, and every scout has come in and said, man, this guy's playing well. And we always talk about sometimes not only with young players, but the biggest development, the gains are made through those after spring practice and you go into the summer. And I know that Coach Marcus has a lot to do with that. I know that his accumulated amount of reps being a defensive tackle, Coach Brown, the scheme that Coach Tenuta is using him when we're moving a lot with him. He is a strong, powerful, can pass rush, can play well against the run, all those things. And he is definitely emerging as being, again, I'm just saying what the scouts say is being a guy that's definitely moving up the radar and catching a lot of people's eyes. So his game has improved, and we're looking forward to him having better games as we move forward. We're trying to find ways to get guys in the game, and Quanti is a big, strong, powerful guy that through kind of a transition here, to see if he can put his hands on the ground and just go vertical and penetrate up the field. His ability to do that will help us defensively. He knows the defense. He's a big, strong, physical guy. Obviously, we'd like to get him more reps and more opportunities, particularly in this game and going into the games that are our conference games. Without a doubt. I mean, you talk about first two games out of the way. Now we're playing another opponent after having an open week, and so the first thing we want to deal with is ourselves. Obviously we'll give the opponent this week the attention that that they deserve. But at the same time, we're going into a stretch of, playing, after them, then, we go on the road to Pittsburgh. So, there is a stretch, and everyone saw the beginning of the schedule this year, and it was much talked about. Now everyone sees, the stretch here in September and then going into October and what's going to be required, for us to be successful. It always does, again, you guys know about my dad, 30 years, retired Air Force, Vietnam veteran, dealing with some health issues. But, I've had, as a kid growing up, we've lived all over, basically, Hawaii, Africa, California, Germany. I mean, and I always have a tremendous amount of respect for our armed forces, men and women that serve, even police officers, since I was one of them too, But the fact that this game against VMI, I played in a couple games where you play academy schools and military schools, and I don't know if they're going to march their cadets in, but that's one of the most impressive things that you'll ever see. And you take even though that's your opponent, you take a tremendous amount of pride, the fact that these young men maybe one day might be put in harm's way, but here they are, this moment, this time, that they represent what I think was truly great in America, is people saying, you know what, I'm service to country, service to core. And I grew up in a household, like that. I still say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And that's the way it'll always be. But it'll be great to see the atmosphere. And again, I appreciate all the men and women in uniform out there. It's a special day. We should always never forget about the freedoms that we enjoy because of those sacrifices for men and women in uniform. We talked about, going into the season being smart, tough, and aggressive. And I think, when you play against two really good football teams, that you're going to have to find that type of identity, sooner than later. And one of the things that we had to address is, also using David as an option to run the ball as well. So teams have to defend the field, not only vertically and horizontally, but know where he's at all times. And there's some things that we can do to allow him to do that. And he's talented enough to be able to do that. And we did a lot of things focusing on that. And the other thing for us is to go vertically down the field. And we have to include, have to exceed some of those explosive plays that we're looking for. And we spend a lot of time, getting those receivers downfield, throwing the ball to them. So if you can do that, you can have a quarterback that can run and kind of also fit into your style of offense, then you have opportunities. And I think those are the things we're looking to create. It always starts with, the relationship that the position coach has with, his player. In this instance, Steve is a coordinator and the quarterback's coach. And I think, when you're putting things in and you're adding things, playbook, and you're doing all those things, you coach the players, but then you start getting a chance to know them as you have those meeting times, those down times. And I think over the course of time, you can even ask David that the relationship that he and Steve has, I think, has been very beneficial. Steve coming down, on the sideline and being that kind of coordinator, I think it will pay off dividends in the long run. It's been very beneficial. And so I look to see David's improvement continue as his and Steve's relationship improves and continues, as the instant feedback, from the huddle to the sideline, with having your position coach and your coordinator there. I think that'll improve David. And then we talked about doing some things with David that will help him be, get him more involved in the offense. So I think all those things together is something that's positive for us and it's positive for David. That's a great point. It shows that we're all accountable for a lot of things, and particularly when you're the guy that handles the ball 100% of the time. It's important that everyone knows that how he releases it, where he throws it, who he throws it to, that he's saying that he's got to be accountable. But it also tells those guys that if you're to run the right route, run this way, cut your, if you need to cut your splits in order to make a rusher, put him at a disadvantage position, if you got to block longer. So the message is being sent that I'm going to take the blame. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I'm going to, I'm responsible. I'm the quarterback. I handle the ball. But I think that's what kind of leader he is, because he'll never talk about someone that didn't run the right route or not having enough time to throw the ball. And I think what the players see is, this guy, this is what a true leader is all about. So they got to step their game up as well.